Good morning. Should be live now. Please let me know, because 2 days ago the live stream was a bit low in volume, if the volume is okay. I don't want to talk forever without you guys hearing me. By the way, can you play all 8 open cowboy chords cleanly, comfortably, all the time? Now, if your answer is yes, then I'm happy for you to leave this video because it's not for you. If your answer is no, I can't, then stay tuned, because I give you all the tips that I accumulated over the last 17 years of teaching guitar. But yeah, before I continue, I just want to know if the volume is okay. So is anybody there? Let me know if you can hear me okay. And as I said, there are 8 open cowboy chords. I don't know where that term cowboy chords comes from. I feel like by naming them cowboy chords, it kind of feels they're very easy to play in a sense. I don't know why, but kind of makes them sound so easy peasy. Volume is okay, very good. Could be a tiny bit more. Well, yeah, it's not that easy. Sorry, Jasper. It wouldn't hold. I can get a bit closer. Maybe like that. How's that? And I put on my live stream voice, my low, high volume voice. Okay, I hope that's okay. So these open chords, where was I? The thing with these is they're super important. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. By naming them cowboy chords, it kind of makes them sound so easy, makes them seem so easy. But it turns out they're not, at least not to everyone, they come that easily. And I get these comments every now and then from people saying, well, that's so easy. You don't need tutorials on cowboy chords and stuff like that. That's so easy. If you need a tutorial on this and that, then you will never be any good at guitar. And I couldn't agree less, because we all started somewhere. And probably these people who write that have forgotten where they're coming from, where they came from with the guitar. Because I remember clearly when I started out, all this was not easy. Moving my fingers wasn't easy. I had no good ears. So all that I had to train over years and years and hours of practice. And now it's easy, yeah, sure. But it wasn't like that all the time. So that's what I want to give you, in case you can play all the cowboy chords, all the 8 open chords cleanly and comfortably. I want to give you my tips. So let's start with an E major. So there are 5 major chords and there are 3 minor chords. E major is the first that I want to talk about. And that diagram, just in case you can't read it, the lines that go from top to bottom, these are your strings. The line that is on the left hand side, this is the low E string. This is your thickest string. And on the other side, obviously, that's the thinnest string. So that's your bottom string here. And then you have these lines. You have that big line here from left to right on the top. This is your nut. This is that piece here. It could be black on your guitar as well. And then the thinner lines going left to right, these are your fret wires. I know you guys in English say frets, but I find it a bit confusing, especially for beginners, to say frets for these metal things and frets for these boxes. So I stick to frets when I refer to these black boxes, and I say fret wires for these metal things because I think it's a bit more precise. Cool, and then you have your fingers, 2, 3, 1. So the fingers on the left hand side, they have numbers. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And the thumb usually doesn't have a number on the guitar. It has a number on the piano, but a different one. Usually when the guitar is notated, it gets a T for thumb. So that means for E major, we need this fingering here. So the middle finger is on the A string, second from the top, second fret. Ring finger is just below D string, second fret. And then the index is on the G string, first fret. This is your E major, and it sounds like that. That's an E major. And that, if you can hear it, is my daughter crying. And this is one of the easiest cowboy chords, one of the easiest open chords that you can play. But still, I see some mistakes when people play it. And mainly it's that at least the G string is blocked, sometimes even the B string, sometimes the E string. But the G string would be the most common one to be blocked. And what happens then is it sounds like that. It sounds okay, but it's not a complete major chord. You don't have the full sound of an E major chord. What you want is this. And to figure it out, you go string by string when you're still checking your open chords. And make sure that you hear all of them cleanly. We want to hear all 6 of them. Now to achieve this has to do, you have to see it a bit holistically. That has to do with the position as well. So if you angle your guitar, for example, like that, it's a lot harder to reach around the neck here. So usually it happens then that you block these strings here. For example, my B string is now blocked because of that poor position. So keep it upright, keep the headstock bit up, and then you should be alright, should be reaching around. And also sometimes people are struggling having their thumb on top and reaching around, so lower your thumb just a bit. You don't need it on top of the neck for that. And also, by the way, when we're talking about the thumb, this plays such an important role. If you think about it, it's your most important finger on the guitar because you have 4 fingers here on that side. You can do a lot with 4 fingers. There are even guitarists who don't have 4 fingers and they play amazing stuff. But a thumb is the only opponent. It's the only one on the back of the neck, holding holding the neck in place, holding the guitar in place, and making kind of like giving a counterweight to these fingers pressing on the strings here. Because otherwise, if you wouldn't have your thumb there, you would constantly push the neck of the guitar back. So this plays an important role, and where you position it plays an important role for all these chords. Before we move on to the next one, just very quick, what I see often is people hold their thumbs like that. I hope you can see it. Don't do that. The thing is, you would need a lot more pressure and you risk hurting yourself. And the other thing is, you're not very flexible in that position. So if I keep touching the neck with that bit of my hand here as well, and the thumb, I can't move anywhere. But look at that. When I free up that space and I only touch the back of the neck with my with that first section of the thumb here, I can move wherever I want. I can reach all the frets from there because it's just one point touching the guitar here. So make sure that your thumb is like that. And when you move up the neck, just as a preview, when you move up the neck, when you do your position shifts, make sure that your thumb is always kind of like centered in terms of kind of like opposite the center of the pressure that you apply on the front. This is so important, and this is the most common mistake I see when you do position shifts, that the thumb is left behind. We don't want that because that would lead to that poor position again. You want that good position anywhere on the neck. Now, let's move on. That E major is fairly easy. Unless you have any questions, please let me know in the chat. I might have some tips for you. Now, the next one up is A major. Let me just open up the chord diagram. Cool. I chose to show you this fingering here with the middle finger and then the index finger and then the ring finger all on the second fret. Try to angle it a bit better so that you can see it. So they're all on the second fret, the second black box here. And I try to keep them very close to the fretboards. This is so important for all chords and for everything that you're gonna do on the guitar, in fact. Be close to the fret wires, to the metal things, because otherwise what happens is this. You might have heard that before. If you place your finger here, you get that buzzing sound, and you would need so much more pressure to apply on the string to get it, to make it sound good, to make it sound clean. But if you place your finger right next to the fret wire, you only need very little pressure and you get a good sound. So it makes it very efficient. It makes you not risk hurting yourself, and it gives you a good sound. So I have these here. Middle and ring finger are very close. The index finger can't be close as well because there isn't enough space. You might feel it yourself when you try it yourself. So you have to kind of like tuck it in here under your middle finger to get as close as you can to the fret wire. And you would get that sound. Now there's one thing to mention with this chord and a few others as well. I find it sounds much better without the low E string, the thickest string here, the top string. Listen to the comparison. This is it with the E string and without. Again, without. I find it sounds much clearer in the bass, and it's even more obvious when you try it yourself. There are songs where you hear the low E string for sure, and it is part of the chord. The chord consists of 3 notes, A, C sharp, and E. E is in there, but I don't know. It's just it just sounds better without, to my ears. So what I do here is, because it's hard to kind of like avoid strumming it, for example, it's better to avoid it. It's easier to avoid it when you finger pick. But for sure, for strumming, it's not that easy. So what I do here, I solve that problem with my left hand. So I have my thumb on top of the neck, so that this groove here, after the first section of the thumb, kind of like locks in here right at the edge of the neck, so that that flashy bit of my thumb blocks the low E string, so it can't ring now, it's muted. And from there I let my hand and wrist hang down, very relaxed, just like that. And then I place my fingers on the fretboard. So have a close look at my wrist. Let me just roll up my sleeve. How do I turn that? Have a look. So this is the position of wrist and hand. I don't do this. I don't hold it up like this. We don't want that, because that causes a lot of tension. And again, you lose your flexibility. But what you want is, you want to keep it relaxed. You want that flexibility. So let it just hang down from there. It's easier said than done. Try it yourself. If you can't seem to do it, people quickly say they have too short fingers. And it's so common to say that. But you see, how do you explain this? You see kind of like tiny Korean girls of, I don't know, 8 years old or so, playing on a proper full-grown guitar, on a classical guitar with an even wider neck, and they can reach everything. So I think they have shorter fingers than all adults have. Try to find a way. That's just my point here. I don't want to say anything about you thinking that, if you do, but try to find a way. Try to see it more holistically. Try to find a good position. Try to make it work. And always think of, before we continue to the next one, and I'll tell you a bit more about the A, try to think of like you play the guitar. The guitar doesn't play you. So you are yourself. You sit here. You have your position, a good posture, and then the guitar needs to fit in, not the other way around. You don't need to fit around the guitar like that. The guitar needs to fit in. So what happens here usually is, with these A chords, usually either the D or the G string, just like mine, D or G string, depending on the fingering that you choose, doesn't come out as cleanly as it should. I'll tell you in a second, Jesper. Doesn't come out as cleanly as it should. And usually that's the reason, because you're too far away from the fret wire. Now, for example, if you take that fingering here, the index finger is very far away. The index finger is now on the D string. Do you see that? And it's kind of like it couldn't go any further away from the fret wire. And that's the problem that I said before. You get that buzzing sound, or not a sound at all. So that's the issue here. Get closer if you can, or try different fingering like the one that I suggest here. And also what happens most of the time is that the high E string is blocked. So you get something like this. Kind of like that mid sound, but you don't have that high E string here. And that's the reason for, the reason for that is because of you kind of like pull your wrist up. Usually you block the E string with some part of your hand like this. So let it hang down, let it relax. This is a Furge, just to answer your question, this is a Furge Vintage 2 DSR. So it's a Dreadnought, it's spruce and rosewood. Have a look, it's a lovely back. Has a lovely back, a lovely mahogany neck as well. It's a lovely guitar. When I bought that guitar, I tested like 30 different guitars, and they were a lot more expensive than this one, but this one was the best. At least for my ears, for my playing, it was the best. So I can highly recommend that company. And I have a good student of mine. He has a few Furge guitars now, and he's very happy with them. So yeah, it's a good guitar maker. I can recommend it, and it's not too expensive. Let me just tell you that I had this guitar, the Furge guitar, and it cost at that point 1,800 euros, so close to 2,000. And I had a Martin. Pretty much the same setup, mahogany neck, spruce top, rosewood back and sides. So the same setup, same size, same everything, but from Martin, and it cost 1,000 more. So it was the same price as this plus half of it more, and the guitar was okay. I wasn't thrilled by it, but the thing was the case. How they presented the guitar. The case was horrible. It had like rests of glue all over the place, and that kind of like nasty artificial fur interior. And this one here came perfectly in a nice case. Everything was neat and clean. And I kind of like expect that when you buy a guitar for 2,000-3,000 or even more, it needs to come in a neat, kind of like clean presentation. I mean, it's about the guitar in the end, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it is a nice guitar. Cool. So that A major always causes some trouble. Usually it's due to the fingering. I would just want to give you some options. So this is the one that I have here on display. This will be another common one. This is index, middle ring, top to bottom. And this will be another common one that works well. Middle ring and pinky, top to bottom. This is a very common one. A lot of people play like that. When I play and I strum and I don't need the high E string, I usually just bar it. But that's a little more advanced. And I bar it so that kind of like I have my thumb on top. This is blocked. The A string is open, and this is barred, this is barred, this is barred, and then this here is blocked. So this is my kind of like go-to. And what I like is I have my hand here to open and close, and I get that. I can play these kind of like short rhythms, which I like, which is hard to do. It's almost impossible to do with that. At least it doesn't sound as clean because you only have your pinky to do that, and it's not quick enough, or the strings don't stop quickly enough. All right, let's move on. The next one, D. We have a bit more to do here. A D major looks and sounds like that. Again, it's one of them where I want to block the low E string, and this time it's not just optional. You really need to avoid the E string because it's not part of the chord. It sounds like that. If you don't, I'll get a bit closer to the mic. It kind of like sounds weird in the bass section. And without the E string, nice and clean. So that's the thing here. And the same thing here, you put your thumb on top of the neck, you let that groove here lock in at the edge, you let your hand and wrist hang down from there. I hope you can see this. And then you place your fingers on the fretboard. Again, you want to be very close to the fret wires. And I know some people, some beginners are struggling getting them close, especially the index finger, because they have it kind of like that. So tilt them around. It's a bit like, imagine you would have like a watch here and you wanted to have a look what time it is. You would do it like that, but I would do it like that. So imagine you have your D in place, you have a watch, you want to see what time it is, you would turn it around. And this is what you need to do, but not as far. You just go that bit and then they kind of like tilt around so that they kind of like point roughly to your right shoulder. Do you see this? Not like that, not straight, like this. And then the only thing that you need to do to reach these fret wires, you'll see, I just stretch out my fingers and then I can reach these fret wires. Do you see? I could go further with my index finger, I could go further with my ring finger and also with my middle finger, but I don't need to. I just want to go as far as the fret wires go. So that's the thing here. And one thing that I feel like hasn't been told enough is you can play the A string along with your D chord. Now I know it's not the bass note because it's based on a D, that's why it's called D. But it sounds nice. A and D string together gives it a nice resonating drony bass. If you leave it out, sounds a bit thin. So if you avoid the A string and the E string, it sounds a bit thin. But with the A string, it's a nice bass. The most common thing that I see is that the high E string is blocked. That's a common thing that happens. Again, that is due to your fingers not being arched around that E string here. It's usually the ring finger that kind of like touches the E string and blocks it by doing that. So you don't want that. You want to kind of get it a bit up. Just push your forearm just a tiny bit forward and then it should roll up your fingers and arch them a bit further around. Do you see this? So let's say this is your position now and the ring finger touches the high E string. If you push your forearm, let me just turn around. If you push your forearm just a tiny bit forward, it straightens your wrist and it arches your fingers, which is good. So that's a clean D major. Let's move on. We have two more major chords. And again, if you have any questions along the way, according to these open chords, preferably, or anything else, just let me know. And I'll try to answer. At G, you have multiple possibilities for a G chord. I like the 4-finger G. Like the sound of it. So it's middle finger, top string, 3rd fret, index, 2nd string from the top 2nd fret. The ring finger's on the 3rd fret, 2nd string from the bottom, and the pinky's on the bottom string, 3rd fret as well. Again, you want to be very close to the fret wires. And with close, by the way, I mean that close that you feel the fret wire at your fingertip. You don't want to be on top of the fret wire. And you don't want to be that far away that you don't feel the fret wire. You just want to feel it at your fingertip. Oh, there it is. That's a good place. Again, just if it's possible. For example, the ring finger can't be as close, at least not mine, because there is not enough space, but I have it as close as I can. It's kind of like overlapping the pinky. So this is the 4-finger G. I also like this one. This is very beginner friendly. Just top string and just bottom string, both on the 3rd fret. You could take these fingers, or these would work fine. Maybe, yeah, these two. Middle ring or ring and pinky. It's a nice chord fingering as well. And you would just need to make sure that you block the A string. That's important because it's not part of the chord. Listen to the difference if I leave it open, if I can. Oh, sorry. I can't with that fingering. It doesn't sound that good. But if you block it, it sounds nice and clean. Well, Jasper, you could, but I'm fully booked at the moment. I'm sorry. Maybe at another time. So the 4-finger G, it's fairly easy. Even if you block like the A string here, that's totally fine. It would sound okay. It wouldn't be technically a G major anymore. It would be a big G power chord because it lacks the note B. But in context, it would sound like a G major anyway. So cool. Now let's move on. A C major, that's our last major chord before we move on to the minor chords. And the C major, I have to say, although it's used a ton in songs, I'd say of these open chords, it's the trickiest one. It's where I see most people struggling with in one-on-one lessons. And it's for a reason. It's the only one. Is it the only one? Yeah, it's the only one reaching over 3 frets, over the span of 3 frets. All other chords are just within 2 frets, a 2-fret area, either the first 2 or the 2nd and the 3rd. But this one here goes over the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which makes it a bit harder to do with for beginners. So a tip here, usually I see this when beginners plays it on the fretboard, they go straight to the fretboard. Do you see they point kind of like towards the fretboard, these fingers? But what you need to do, or what I feel is much more comfortable, is this. You tilt them around so that they point towards you, roughly towards your right shoulder. You see this? So this is what I see a lot of people do, straight on. And this is what I want you to try at least. If you play like that later, it's up to you. So let them point towards you, your right shoulder. Because what happens then is, a lot of beginners say they can't reach the fret wires. Because, you know, I always tell them, reach the fret wires, that's where you get the good sound, that's very efficient. But they can't seem to. They kind of like end up here. So the ring finger is very far off the fret wire. And it's really hard to reach that, even for me here. I mean, yeah, I can do it, but when I do this, I just need to stretch them out, and there I am at the fret wire. That's it. It's very easy like that. And again, this is one of them. I find it sounds better without the low E string, although it would be part technically of the chord. You hear it in some songs, like for example, it just springs to mind. In Zombie, you hear the open E string by the Cranberries. There are other songs as well where you hear the open E string. But in most cases, I find it sounds cleaner without. Again, let's listen to the comparison. This is with E string and then without. Again, with E string, without. I hope you can hear that it sounds much clearer. And it always, these kind of comparisons and listening exercises would make more sense if you do them yourself on your guitar. Let me just drink something. Okay, so the C, I just want to help you in case you can't seem to get a good sound out of it. The most common thing is that some strings are blocked. Usually it's the G string that's blocked. Again, you want to find that out by going string by string. The top one needs to be blocked. Again, I have my thumb on top of it, on top of the neck to block that. If you can't seem to do it, leave it for now, leave the thumb down, that's okay for now. But then the A string you want to hear, the D string you want to hear, and all other strings. You want that clean sound. And if you feel like, okay, G string is blocked now, I have to, again, push your forearm just a tiny bit forward, and do you see it rolls up my fingers and makes them more arched around these strings. And I get that clean sound. And also sometimes it's where you position your fingers on the string, or the other way around, where you position the string on the fingertip. And you see, I just press a bit more on the string so that you see that. Hopefully you can see it. Do you see where the strings kind of like cut my strings, cut my fingertips? And some people place the string somewhere here, further down, further away from the fingernail, and that it's an issue with the other way around. So you need to find a good position, because the fingertip, that's quite a space here. Where do you put the string? You need to figure it out for your fingers, because fingers are very, very different. I had a student once, he had fingertips, you wouldn't believe that. They were massive. All his fingertips looked like my thumb. And it was very hard for him to get these chords cleanly out of the guitar without blocking other strings. Imagine you're playing with kind of like 4 thumbs on the tiny narrow fretboard like this. So it's very different from person to person. So you need to find the good position for your fingers for each chord. You need to spend some time with the guitar to figure that out. And also what you can do, what have helped my students, is this. If you can't seem to get that, to spread your fingers that far, you anchor down one finger, let's say the index finger. Usually we start building up the C chord like this. Index finger on the fretboard, and you leave it there anchored down, and then you kind of like try to get the others on the fretboard. But you can also reverse that. So you put the ring finger first, you anchor that down right next to the fret wire, and it won't leave that spot here. And from there you kind of like can tilt it over here and can reach these other positions. Just like that. So don't do it like this. You put it here and then you let it leave its position. Anchor it down here. Don't apply too much pressure, but just leave it in place. And then the other 2 fingers. And again, what I usually hear as well is that the E string is blocked. This is when this bit of the hand touches the bottom of the neck. So you want to leave some space here between your, how do I show this? Between your hand and the neck. Let me show you what it looks like. Do you see this? I'm not kind of like here at the bottom of the neck. I kind of like let it hang down, wrist and hand, as I said in the beginning. Even with my thumb on top, do you see there's still some space between neck and my hand? And I don't have big hands either. I mean, they're not small either, but they're not like huge hands. Like some people have huge hands, and I feel this can be an advantage on the guitar, but it's not necessary. It's not a requirement. So as I said, I don't have massive hands either, but it works well. Let it hang down. But all this is easier said than done. Now, let's move on to the minor chords. Again, if you have any questions in the meantime, just let me know. And I'll try to address that. Let's see, E minor is the next one. This is probably the easiest of them all. The 2 color versions for that, it's like middle and ring finger here on the 2nd fret, 2nd and 3rd string from the top, or index and middle finger. I've always felt this feels a bit more stable, kind of like feels a bit better to me than this one. But there are occasions, there are some chord changes where I want to use this one here because it will give me some advantages over this one here. So these are the two common fingerings for that. And I have it on display here with middle and ring finger. You see these numbers 2 and 3 there. And again, you want to be close to the fret wire, the second one. And here it's the same. You only can be as close with your ring finger so that you feel the fret wire at your fingertip. And the middle finger just needs to be as close as it can. It kind of like overlaps that ring finger. So don't just place them like that, just next to each other. Really, you want to really kind of get them very close, just like that. And again, you don't want to block the G string especially, because this is the one that makes all the difference between E major and E minor. It's the only note within that chord shape here that makes the difference. So this was E major, this was E minor. But when you block the G string, you wouldn't hear the difference. Let me show you. E minor with the blocked G string, and E major with the blocked G string. It just sounds the same, right? You don't want that. You want to hear the difference, major, minor. And you, Jasper, if you're still watching, if you're into finger picking, if you want to really nail finger picking, then get these cleanly on the fretboard, because when you finger pick, and that's why it's so important to all these details that I'm telling you right now. If you want to finger pick, you would play single strings. That means you would hear these single notes. Now, if there is a string that is blocked, you wouldn't hear that string, right? You pick the note, and it's just that comes out, just a percussive sound, not a pitched one. So you would have a problem. It wouldn't sound good. Whereas when you strum, you can get away with the blocked G string. It's not it wouldn't sound bad. It would sound okay. You wouldn't even realize probably as a beginner. But then the moment you start to do other things like finger picking, it reveals all the weaknesses. That's why it's so important to get these details right. Now let's move on to the next one. This is an A minor. Okay, A minor. Here we go. It's just like an E major, but one string down. So you take all these fingers, one string down. And again, it sounds better without the E string. So have the thumb on top of the neck, block the E string. This is what it sounds like. And usually the most common mistake will be that the high E string is blocked. Again, same issue here. If you touch that bottom of the neck with your hand, just like that, it would block my E string as well. But if you let it hang down, your wrist and hand, just from there, from your thumb, you will get that clean sound. Now, to achieve that, I would place the thumb first on the neck. And do you see this groove here locks in right at the edge? And sorry that I'm not looking at you, I'm just staring at me doing it so that I do it correctly, so that you see it correctly. And then from there, just let it hang, just like that. So thumb on top of the neck, let it hang, and then you place your fingers on the fretboard. And you see there's some space here. This is what you need to get that clean sound. And then last but not least, although it's not used as often as the other open chords, which is for a reason, a D minor. That's the 8th one, the 8th open chord. Now, let me just stretch out my leg. Okay. Now the D minor chord. And then I want to sell you something, so stay tuned. This is the D minor chord. Just like that. This is the first fret, then the third, and then the second. And again, you want to block the low E string, ideally, because it's not part of the chord. It sounds horrible. If you play the low E string with it, it doesn't sound very clean. But without, it sounds clean. So you want that. And the most common fingering for that would be this. So index, middle, ring. And I know we're not that trained, or our little fingers are usually not that trained. Because, I mean, in daily life, you don't use it as much for anything. The little finger in particular. So this is the most common fingering, but I find it's the harder one actually, because it's hard to spread these fingers that far. It would work like that if you kind of like tilt them again, but I find it much better with the pinky. So try that. In case you always play it like this, index, middle, ring, try index, middle, pinky instead. I feel it feels much more relaxed, much less tension. In the end, if you advance on the guitar, you want to have all the possibilities. The more flexible you are with your fingerings, the more possibilities you have, the more flexible you can be with your entire guitar playing. But this I find is the most is the easiest. Cool. So those are the open chords. If you have any questions, just let me know in the chat. Now, as I said, I want to sell you something. Now, before you switch off, selling is nothing bad. We all buy stuff. The only thing is, we buy only the right stuff. No, that's not even true. Sometimes we buy shit. But it only makes sense if the product is right for you. So that's the thing that we need to find out. And what I'm selling is this that you see in the top right corner, highguitar.com/thespark. The Spark is my training program. And now, before I waste your time, let's just find out if it's for you. Now, if you're not a beginner, if you're not in your, let's say, first 3 years, if you don't want to get better at guitar, then it's not for you. So you can switch off. And I'll see you around. But if you are a beginner, if you're kind of like stuck already in your first 1, 2, 3 years, you're trying to figure out the guitar by yourself, and you want to get better, then it's for you. So I highly recommend stay tuned. I came up with something which is called the vicious downward spiral, or at least I call it the vicious downward spiral. I want to show you. This is what usually happens to beginners and why they don't progress. Where am I? Here we go. It's the one, just a second. Now you should see it. Let me just make it a bit bigger. Cool. So this is what I came up with. A beginner teaching themselves. So let's say for 1 to 3 years, you're trying to figure out the guitar. Of course, you have some help. You have like YouTube tutorials, you have books, you buy even courses, you try this and that. But none of it really works. And usually that leads to having no structure. So you just don't know what to do next. You just don't know what to practice, how to practice it, when to practice, what lesson is the right lesson for you. Don't have a structure, don't have a plan. You hop around on YouTube, you have your favorite channels and you pick up some tiny tips here and there, but it's really not a real structure. And then there are these weeks where you don't play, like for weeks you don't touch the guitar at all. So this is what I call having no structure. And that usually leads to no progress. But I mean, who could blame you? How could you progress when you don't have a structure, when you don't know what to do and what to practice and how to do it? How could you progress? And usually that leads to having no motivation. Again, how could you be motivated with something that you don't progress in for years and years? It just doesn't make sense. You lose the interest, and then as a result, you don't practice as much anymore as you actually would like to, because you initially wanted to learn that instrument. You wanted to sound good. You want to play the guitar. And then that usually leads to giving up on guitar. Now that could be like, did you still keep your guitar? You don't sell it, or you don't just give up completely, but actually you've given up in your mind. So that's even worse. You keep the guitar as a reminder of your failure. You see it day in, day out, or at least you see the case where it's in. You see it day in and day out, and it kind of like reminds you of not succeeding at guitar. And it's a terrible feeling for most people. Although I have to say there's nothing wrong with failure. Failure is how we learn, actually. But I don't know, if you don't have a perspective, if you don't know what to do, then it's an issue. And my training program, The Spark, addresses all these issues that I came up with. So it's me in there as your beginner. It's me in there. I can't speak anymore. It's me in there as your teacher. So you're not on your own anymore. And I'm an excellent teacher. I'm not bragging here, but you need to know who you're dealing with, right? I have a lot of experience. I started to teach in the year of 2007. When I was 18, I took over a job from my friend Stefan, and he asked me if I wanted to teach these guitar students in a local music store just around the corner. And I said, yes, why not? And that was only when I was like 3 years into guitar playing. And I started to teach, and I never stopped. I had periods where I taught a bit less, a bit fewer students, but I never really stopped. And I kept teaching and teaching and teaching. And I've been doing this full time, providing for my family since 2011. So full time since 2011, but I started in 2007. So I'm very well experienced. I'm also very well educated because I studied music education, and I hold 2 degrees in these 2 subjects. So all that I'm saying is, you will have a teacher in the Spark. You're not on your own anymore, because it's me in there who you can ask questions. I designed the program. I designed all the lessons. So you will get the necessary help and guidance that you need to move on with the guitar. Now, how about the structure? The Spark has a very good structure. It has 5 stages, 24 milestones, and it brings you along all the necessary stuff first. For example, the Cowboy Chords, what we talked about, is in there. Strumming is in there. Finger picking is in there. What I did in the last live stream yesterday, how do you control your fingers as a beginner, is in there. How do you position yourself is in there. Rhythm, how do you count music, is in there. All the basics are in there. And this is the foundation we build on top of. And then comes the creative stuff. And I'll show you, if you know my lessons, I'll show you all the nice chords and all the lovely sounds that the guitar can produce. That is probably the reason why you fell in love with the guitar in the first place. So, as I said, we have a very good structure in there. A very good plan. You will always know what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And then, of course, you will progress just by having the structure. But I can also hold you accountable within the Spark. I feel more and more that this is actually the main job that I have as a guitar teacher. It's not only having the structure and having the right lessons and the right music to play at what stage. It's also kind of like holding you accountable, and in a positive way. I won't yell at you. I won't be mad at you if you haven't practiced. It's just up to you. I mean, in the end, you want to get better. I want that too. But I will try my best to make sure that you do the lessons, that you put these things into action so that you can get better, so that you can enjoy the guitar more. That's the end goal, right? There is no end but to the guitar, but that's the goal. You want to enjoy making music. You want to pick up the instrument. You just want to play. You want to sound decent. You want to make nice music. And this is my goal for you too. So, as I said, I will hold you accountable there. We will make sure that you progress, and we can track your progress. It's very easy in there. You'll see. And then how about the motivation? I don't worry about that at all. You'll be motivated just by that. You'll be motivated by having a community around you, having other people inside the Spark learning the same things as you. You will be motivated because you're in contact with me in there. You'll be motivated by having a structure. You will see, oh, I'm here. I want to go here. This is the next step that I need to do. And I went through this and this and this, so I can already do this and this. That's cool. So you will see that it's very clear in there. And you will progress. I mean, how could you not be motivated when you move forward with your guitar playing, when you get better? It's just, how? And then that last point, giving up on guitar, we don't even have to talk about that. That is out of the equation. You wouldn't even think about it, because why would you? If you're progressing, if you're having a good time, if you have the structure, you know what to do, and you're motivated, why would you give up on guitar? It just doesn't make sense. Now, let me just put that graphic away, and I just want to say, you will see all this on that website here, highguitar.com/thespark. If you feel like it could be a good fit for you, have a look at the website. Have a look around if it's really for you, and then enroll now, because you have to hurry up a bit. It's the 3rd of June now, and it's only open from 1st to 5th of June. So we're kind of like in the middle here. And yeah, just have a look if it's for you. And I just wanted to say, the program is brand new. The Spark is brand new. So there are not the typical testimonials that you see all over the place, like the video testimonials, and someone from somewhere writes these and that cool things about it. I have to be honest, I don't read these. I never read these. When I buy a product, I recognize they're there, but I never ever read a word, because I kind of like, I don't know, I see that people trusted it, but I already know what they're gonna say, that it's amazing. I mean, what's the point? And I don't know these people, and is it even legit? So it's the same here. How would you know? You can only try. But what I can give you is, I can show you a few of my students. I recently started taking pictures with them. So I have, for example, a good student of mine, Anthony, here. So this is what a one-on-one looks with me. Anthony here on the screen, and then it's me here with my guitar and the same jumper. It's a lovely one. Although I have to say the lamps make it a bit hot here. So we have to finish soon. So this is Anthony. He's been learning with me one-on-one for a year now, almost a year. And it's so good to see his progress, how he started with me and what he's able to do now. And I can only look forward to every single lesson that we're doing, because it's so nice to see how he progresses, how he gets better, how he's interested, and how we can find a way to keep him interested in the guitar, keep him motivated, and to always find these little nuggets of kind of like success. And that's so useful, because I know at some stage he won't be my student anymore, and that's totally fine. I mean, who wants to be like in a teacher-student relationship all their lives? I mean, it could work, but it's also very expensive then. So my goal is for him and for all my students to be free at some stage, to have learned enough from me so that they can actually teach themselves. So yeah, this is Anthony, and this is what he texted me when he found out that I'm building the Spark, which is a really lovely message. And I didn't ask him to send me this. He just sent it out of the blue. Florian, you have no idea how you've enriched my life since I've started taking lessons with you. I'd love to hear all about it on Tuesday. Tuesday is usually our lesson, when we have our lessons. So yeah, that's a lovely message from one of my students. And there's just one other thing I want to show you. I have more of these pictures. You see them on the website as well. But this is a lovely YouTube comment I got a few months ago. And it's so nice. It really made my day when I read that in the morning. Just wanted to pop in and let you know that I found your channel recently and have been super into it. I like to sit down and go through your shorts, learn whatever it is, and then use it as inspiration to mess around. It really helps me to get out of my head and explore, because I know almost everything I watch will be literate, informational, and digestible. I've even started to get my mom into it. That's the best part. I've even started to get my mom into it, and now we sit down with our guitars together to watch you and gain inspiration. You're doing a great job. Thank you. This is so nice. I mean, could you get a better comment than this? This is exactly what I want to achieve with my lessons. This is exactly what I wanted to achieve when I posted daily shorts, and I will be doing that shortly again. I want to get people creative. I want to make them pick up the guitar and explore what I show them. I want to spark inspiration, hence the name that I chose for my training program, The Spark. Because in the end, it's about making music. It's an art. So it's about getting creative. It's about creating new stuff. It's about exploring. It's a bit like when you watch a child do something. They always kind of like explore first. They don't overthink it. They just do it. And they don't care about if it's good or if it turns out like this or so. They just do it, and they have a good time doing it. That's all I want. And so all the lessons inside the Spark are no different from that. They're creative. They will spark inspiration. They will spark your creativity. And you can trust me, you'll have an amazing time inside the Spark. Now, enough talking now. Have a look at the website. Are there any more questions? Is there anyone there who wants to know anything about anything? You'll have me for another minute. Let me know in the chat if you want to know anything. Nope. Okay. Well, there are 2 more live streams tomorrow and the day after. One of them is about strumming. I forgot the other one. You'll find out. Yeah, I'll see you around. Bye.